Thank you so much for stopping by. My name is Sarah. I'm an artist, entrepreneur, and best-selling analyst and author. I co-authored a couple books, and they made it in Amazon best-selling lists in just a matter of a few days. And I love being a part of the collaboration of writing those books because they were basically about women and finding their truth and finding their power, their empowerment, and just a lot of encouraging stories about different businesswomen and women of all kinds of different backgrounds who had the story of how they overcame. And that's what I'm here to give to you, is to encourage you to overcome. If you're like me, maybe you found yourself middle-aged in a lot of different situations where you just have regrets or you feel bad about decisions that you might have made. And you might be ashamed or frustrated over things that you got involved in, and that has a big toll on your spirit and your soul. And if you don't forgive yourself, if you don't forgive those who have wronged you, then it can create a huge bitterness inside of you. And that bitterness can stem and it becomes a cancer, and it just spews out in the lives of others. I remember a lady that I knew in my early 20s, and she was such a bitter person, and she was supposed to be a prominent woman in the church that I was attending, and yet she would just be full of gossip, and she would be full of just bitter, anger, and jealousy, and it was just very hypocritical about the things that she was doing and saying, because they were so contrary to what was being taught there. And it took me a really long time to figure that out and to understand what was going on, that, really inside she was hurt. And she had some unforgiveness in her heart, probably from when she was a little girl. And, so that really, having compassion on that lady and forgiving her myself for the wrongs that she did against me has been so freeing. Forgiveness is so important. And I know that there are terrible situations that you might be involved in, and you might think, how could I ever forget this person? They hurt me, or they hurt my family, they hurt those that I loved. But it's just so important that you do forgive them. And one of the lessons that I learned on how to forgive is, I'm not perfect, right? So there's things that I've done wrong, where maybe I overreacted in relationships with my spouse or significant other or children, and I overreacted and said something unkind or said something rashly or did something unkind. And so if I think about how I treat other people, it helps me have mercy on others too. That, hey, I'm not perfect, they're not perfect. And it really helps you kind of put yourself in their shoes to be able to forgive them. Another way that I look at it too is with, I'm a Christian, and God has forgiven me of so many things that I don't even want to mention, because I'm very ashamed of some of the things that I've done. And I found myself in certain situations, and I am upset, or I regret that I did those things. But so I think about God and the mercy and the forgiveness that He's shown me. He doesn't have to. And even other people where they have shown mercy to me, and so it just helps me to forgive when I get wronged, to have that perspective. And how do you know that you've forgiven someone? Well, when you can't quite remember all the details of the event, right? So maybe something happened 20 years ago, and you can hear somebody share a story and they know every single detail of what had happened, right? And they remember what time of day it was. They remember what car they were driving. They remember everything the other person was doing and saying. And it's like they have held on to that. That is locked in their memory, and they are not letting go of that. Well, that's a sign of unforgiveness, is when you forget, is when you remember all the tiny details from 20 15, 20 years ago. It's so important that you go back to the first offense. You go back to the first occurrence, maybe when you were a little girl, the first time, or a little boy, and remember the first time when you experienced an offense that somebody did against you. That's when that unforgiveness seed was laid. That's when that unforgiveness seed was planted. Well, laid, like an egg. It was planted in you, and it fostered over time. So the next offense your siblings committed against you, or the next offense somebody drove by you and gave you a mean look, or the next offense you were in school and the teacher didn't treat you right. All of those things just kind of snowballed. It's kind of like building a snowman, where layer by layer by layer by layer, that unforgiveness and those offenses have grown and grown and grown and grown, until all of a sudden somebody walks by and they say something and you get so mad all of a sudden, and you get so upset. Well, it's not in and of itself, that act wasn't necessarily wrong. It's because of all the other underlying things that had happened before that weren't taken care of in the right way. I just want to encourage you, if you're a Christian like I am, just pray. Get on your hands and knees and just pray and ask for God's help, that you can forgive that person and let it go. Another thing you might do is write about it. Write in a journal and just tell that person all of the things that hurt you and all the things that you were offended at and everything that you might have wanted to say to them at the time. Because sometimes we have something that happens and we think about it afterwards and think, oh, I would have said such and such, I would have done this and that. And we think about what we should have said at the time. And now's your chance. Get it out. Journal about it. Act like you're writing that person a letter, okay? And just get all of that anger out, get all of those offenses out, and just like you're so mad, and do it in a healthy way. And set it aside. Maybe go back to it after you're cooled off a little bit and read it. And just think about it. Just say, okay, put yourself in that person's shoes. Try to change your perspective and say, okay, well, what if that person just lost a sibling that day? Or what if that person was raised in a alcoholic home where that person didn't get love when they were a child? Or maybe this behavior that they've learned was basically because of how they were treated when they were little. And I just want to try to encourage you to change your perspective. Because when we start to change your perspective on what others did to us, how they treated us, it's going to be so freeing. Then you can write a letter and tell them that you forgive them. You don't even have to have the intention of giving it to them. Because forgiveness isn't necessarily about the other person knowing. It's about freeing your heart. It's about freeing your mind. You're the one that is caught up in the mindset, and caught up in all the thoughts, and caught up in all of the rigmarole of turmoil, or losing sleep, or getting so offended and getting so angry. That's you. You own that, not the person that offended you. The person that offended you may not even have any clue of what they did. And a lot of times that's the case. Or maybe there's a different side of the story that you haven't heard. Maybe that person that did offend you was under a great amount of stress that day, and you don't even know what that was, or you haven't even given them a chance to share their side of the story, or even a chance to forgive you and apologize. So change your mindset of what's going on. And I know it's hard because you want to protect yourself. And what happens is, when we get offended, our guard goes up and we want to protect ourselves right away, and we want to defend ourselves because of all the injustices. That wasn't right, and they shouldn't have treated me that way. How dare they? And who do they think they are? And I am this and that person, or I am special and I shouldn't be treated this way. And really, that's our ego getting in the way. That's our pride. And Pride does nothing good for you. If you think that you do not deserve to be treated to a certain way or spoken to a certain way, then you need to get over yourself, because nobody is perfect. All you can control is your reaction. Someone could come down the road and run right into your car, and you can't control that. You can get angry. All you can control is your reaction in that moment. All you can do. Are you going to be at peace?